That was Carol Kane of the Irish News and Bernard Flynn talking to us about what they see the future of the GPA as. And we'll be speaking with Paul Flynn, the CEO of the Gaelic Players Association, on tomorrow's show. But it is time for the newspapers. I'm going to run you through some of the headlines. O'Donnell uncertain over his future with Clare in the Irish Times. Paul Keane has this story saying that Shane O'Donnell could return to the US. That's an option for him as he nears the completion of his PhD in Cork. So Dr. O'Donnell might not be gracing our fields for that much longer. Brady concerned over implications for championship of a player testing positive. That's David Brady, who we heard from a little bit earlier on. Malachy Clerkin has a thought-provoking piece. Croke Park needs to ensure its message is heard loud and clear by clubs. This is about the clubs not being told to shut down all activity if a single person tests positive, if the contact tracing doesn't suggest it is so. And he's making the point that that's not a message that has come through very loud and clear from the GAA. And CPA calls on GAA to re-engage on issue of fixture impasse. So we'll get to that CPA story in just a moment, because that's on the back of all of the Irish sports pages for you this morning. There's the Irish Independent leading with that as well. CPA, lost opportunity on fixtures will damage GAA. So Micheál Brodie and the Club Players Association have issued their own statement yesterday saying that it is an unpalatable reality that the GAA is in crisis. They said the very future of the GAA, which we all love, is at stake. The GAA is currently in the middle of a very dangerous atmosphere which needs to be addressed immediately and certainly in advance of 2021. If a satisfactory set of fixtures cannot be agreed, then this totally unnecessary and poisonous atmosphere will further escalate and damage our association. The simple and unpalatable reality is that the GAA is in crisis. So they're saying that with everything being pushed back 1 year, they expect the Special Congress on Fixtures to be pushed back a year, and that would be a bad decision, that actually this Special Congress needs to happen this year. So that's a very interesting take on things. And there's also a picture of Irish cyclist Eddie Dunbar undergoing a temperature check before yesterday's first stage of the Vuelta a Burgos in northern Spain, where he finished 12th on day one of a 5-stage race. And Miguel Delaney's story from the London Independent, carrying the back of the Irish Independent. Solskjaer may make move for Grealish to join Sancho in summer spree. So it's not saying that it's one or the other, that it might be. It might well be a case of both. The back page of the Daily Mail. Take no risks, kick out teams with positive tests, says Brady. That's David Brady saying that if there is a positive test on an inter-county team, then that team should be removed from the championship. Football's public spat over Elliott snub is a story that the Mail claim is an exclusive, but is actually in several of the other newspapers as well. English football's power brokers were embroiled in an extraordinary public row yesterday after plans to appoint Paul Elliott to the FA board were blocked. So Paul Elliott has been a vocal critic in the past of the Premier League, and there's a suggestion, an allegation, that the Premier League were preventing him from joining the board of the FA, which up to this point has been almost exclusively white. And so this is an opportunity or an attempt by the FA to add some diversity to their board, and also incredible experience, because he is somebody who has been steeped in the administration of the game since his playing career, and obviously understands the difficulties of being a professional footballer. His career was obviously famously ended after a tackle went wrong. And so apparently he's being stopped by a couple of people a couple of organisations who don't want him there, but that has been worked out, or is being worked out, according to one of the other newspapers this morning. So we'll keep an eye on that story for you. How can a kid of 12 have such hate? I'll fight abuse, vows Star. This is the back of the Daily Mirror this morning, and it's Wilfred Zaha saying that he is scared to look at his messages after a torrent of racial abuse on social media, and he believes the lack of action from Instagram and Twitter has left players resigned to a future of being at the end of racial abuse. Real COVID scare puts City tie in danger. So Real Madrid have had one of their players test positive, 26-year-old striker Mariano Diaz, and so he's going to miss the second leg of the game against Manchester City. Does the game go ahead? I mean, if he's infected any of his teammates, what happens then? And then Paul Gascoigne has been telling his story, and so that's an opportunity for them to reprint the picture of him having his nuts squeezed by Vinnie Jones all those years ago. The Irish Daily Star back page is Real fear for Blues. Last 16 tie in doubt as Madrid run squad tests. That's a picture of Aidan McGuinness celebrating after winning yesterday's big race. He sent Salt on Stall to win the Colin Quinn BMW Mile Handicap for a second successive year. came in at 11-1, so a big price and a big winner for him. CPA in latest blast at GAA, and then also FAI delegates call meetings. So the FAI row is going to rumble on. So they're going to hold an emergency meeting of Senior Council on Friday week. This is all about the Memorandum of Understanding, which was passed and signed during the term of the last government to continue the government funding. Remember, they needed the money, or they were going to go bust essentially, and the government gave them the money on the understanding that some of the changes that had been suggested would be made, including the makeup of the board being 6 FAI elected people and 6 outsiders. And the FAI, the remnants of people who are in the FAI are saying they don't want that, and that this is tantamount to interference, which obviously you're not allowed to do according to FIFA statutes and UEFA statutes. The Sun, Wince William, Blues deal bombshell for Frank Lampard's FA Cup final plans have been thrown into turmoil over Willian's future. Wince Willian, sorry, I got it. It's Prince William, but it's not. It's Wince Willian. He's Thrilly Elliott. Gordon Elliott reckons Galvin can give backers a thrill in today's Galway plate. And then it's rail concern and safety as priority. So there are similar stories across the back of the tabloids. And the UK papers are all cricket, front and back. Stuart Broad, the 7th bowler to take 500 test wickets. Stuart Broad taking 500 wickets. And to get 500 is a special feeling, is the back page in The Guardian. And then I think I should do the Examiner for you here as well. Of course, I've got the Examiner on the racing page as opposed to the front page, so just bear with me for 1 second here. 8:51 on OTBAM this morning. Split club season to help dual stars, says McCarthy. Teddy McCarthy saying split the hurling and football seasons and run them one after the other so that you can get players to play in both. They also have David Brady, that interview, and the Micheál Brodie story as well about the CPA wanting the GAA to press on with their special congress in 2020. The Herald says Jack is back on the agenda, and Gordon out to galvanise Galway is the front of the Racing Post this morning. And then Brentford in action this evening against Swansea. They're 1-0 down from the first leg. I would like Brentford in the Premier League. I think it's a really interesting story, and it'd be nice to see how far they can go next season. Oh, and where are we going?
Will we start with Manchester City?
Go for it.
The reasoned decision came out yesterday. A couple of interesting things from it. If you wanted to read the entire document, you could have probably skewed it in whatever way you wanted, which seems to have been the way this has gone, especially on social media, where you've got a lot of Manchester City fans who are like, this exonerates us completely, and then a lot of other people who potentially have been following CAS decisions down through the years and have a lot of knowledge on this are saying, well, it's not full exoneration, which I guess we probably knew from the initial announcement that they weren't going to be banned for 2 years, but they did release their reasoned decision yesterday. A couple of things from this. The first thing is the time-barred payments. There is a sense to this that UEFA have like shown up at the scene of a crime and everybody's departed, and you're like, got here too late. Yeah, you missed all of this. And like as we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, the whole idea of the payments that occurred between 2012 and 2013 were obviously time barred when it came to actually clamping down on Manchester City and following through with this case. So the reporting of the Der Spiegel leaked emails, for example, they actually happened after the time bar had passed. So you wonder whether or not they had actually looked into that in the first place, how realistic they actually thought this was to actually stand up when it came to the CAS decision in the end. It does mention in the reasoned decision yesterday about this telecoms company, Etisalat, which is obviously the company with which £15 million had been funneled into Manchester City every year. The European lawyers that were sitting around this decided against this 2-1, that it would not consider the legitimacy of these payments through this company because they were made more than 5 years ago. So when it comes to that particular company and the 50 million quid that comes every single year, you were too late to that. Basically, they were time barred, those charges. One of the things that's actually been really interesting in all of this has been the notion that UEFA have some sort of bias against Manchester City. This has been a sort of siege mentality, I think it's fair to say. Like Pep Guardiola coming out, now in fairness, his ire was directed more towards other clubs in the Premier League, asking for an apology. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But Manchester City had claimed at the start here that UEFA were ignoring irrefutable evidence. And CAS came out then yesterday to say that their judgment had no suggestion of bias in it, and that it stated that UEFA by no means filed frivolous charges against Manchester City. And as also acknowledged by Manchester City, there was a legitimate basis to prosecute MCFC. So a lot of strong language used by Manchester City in the build-up to this whole thing. I'm not entirely sure they've proven that that was worthwhile. I guess you could almost say it's been Trumpian language at times from City, saying very, very strong things, like the irrefutable evidence thing. I'm not sure necessarily if it's been irrefutable. It's just proven that it's happened too long ago to be prosecuted properly. The other layer to all of this, which has definitely been used as a stick to beat Manchester City with, has been the idea of obstructing the investigation. And the CAS panel found that City's hierarchy declined to provide emails and other documents when asked by UEFA and refused requests for executives to appear as witnesses. So that is in the reasoned decision yesterday. And then you've got question marks around the panel's chairman as well. I mean, there's certain suggestions that Andrew McDougall, QC, who's been a partner in an international law firm, he was chair of his firm's Operations Council for Europe, the Middle East and Africa. This is according to The Guardian, by the way, from 2016 to 2018, which included an office in Abu Dhabi. So there's been some questions raised by David Connor in his piece today about any conflict of interest there, but they have come out to deny that, to deny that there was any conflict of interest there. So these are a couple of the questions being asked. And then finally, the other thing has been around other clubs and the way they've looked at Manchester City around this, revealing that in March this year, 9 other Premier League clubs wrote to CAS opposing any attempt by City to seek a stay of execution from their 2-year ban at the time. The clubs were Arsenal, Burnley, Chelsea, Leicester, Liverpool, Manchester United, Newcastle, Spurs and Wolves. But Manchester City actually said that they never asked for a stay of execution. So why were these clubs coming out to request that the stay of execution wasn't granted? So like there is a certain legitimacy to what Pep Guardiola is saying when it comes to other Premier League clubs wanting this ban to have been upheld at the time, because clearly 9 of them wrote to CAS attempting to get rid of the stay of execution. But City said that they didn't even ask for that.
The fact that they didn't ask for it is kind of irrelevant, isn't it? It was like a fear that the clubs had. Essentially, the clubs felt like something bad was going to happen here and that City were going to get away with something proven or unproven, and that in the meantime they shouldn't be allowed to continue on their merry way, especially if they had been found guilty. Turns out those clubs needn't have worried. City weren't found guilty of anything. City couldn't even be, and if they had been guilty of something, they couldn't be found guilty of it because it happened so long ago. Beyond any of our living memory, Owen. Who can even remember what was happening in 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014? I certainly can't. Can you?
The world was going to end in 2012, remember? That was it. So maybe that's just what all time bars should include. Did this happen before the apocalypse? If so, you're free.
What was that particular apocalypse?
What was the name of the organization? Not the organization, the sort of tribe from thousands of years ago who predicted that on, was it the 21st of December 2012? What was it?
Was it the Mayans?
The Mayans. There you go. The Mayans. I just kind of
civilization, I believe, was the word you're looking for. Okay, let's not go down the Mayan wormhole. When was the year that all the celebrities died? I mean, I can't even remember what that was. So, like, how can we possibly be expected to remember what was going on? So, look, I don't see. I know some people have said that financial fair play is the best potential model that we have at the moment to try and rein in some of the ridiculous spending, but it hasn't particularly worked. And the 4 richest clubs in England finished in the top 4 positions in the Premier League this year. I know for a long time it looked like Sheffield United might make a burst or Wolves might make a burst, but Wolves are backed by the most powerful agent in world football, and the Sheffield United scenario is a team who are just up, playing brilliantly and above themselves, and who might have some superstars in the team. Who knows? Like maybe some of those players end up being Leicester-esque, who have come through and they're late bloomers, and we see what happens. But the money is going to talk, and the money is the most important thing in football, far more than anything else, far more than a single individual manager's ability to wrestle a team from nowhere into a position where all of a sudden they're going to be the best team. Like, you can look at the impact that Jurgen Klopp has had, but Liverpool have been a Champions League spending squad, and the money that they've invested and their finances are such that when Klopp is finished, they can replace him with another world-class manager because they are one of the richest clubs. And I don't know, it's not exactly romantic, is it?
No, like the point you make about Leicester, Wolves, Sheffield United there, like they didn't end up qualifying for the Champions League. If they'd qualified for the Champions League, you might actually say, oh, well, is this something that we can write off as just a one-off or whatever? But they didn't actually get the job done in terms of qualifying for the top four. Now, for a club like Sheffield United, finishing where they did was obviously an unbelievable achievement. For Leicester and Wolves, though, they certainly would have had top four on their eyes. And as you say, it's not exactly like they've been meek in the transfer market. They've certainly spent a good bit. But yeah, like I don't know, there's been a lot of these last few weeks have certainly helped Manchester City to kind of batten down the hatches a good bit. Like there's been a lot of vitriol coming from City fans towards UEFA, and for those people, I guess, reporting the facts that Manchester City didn't cooperate fully with this investigation, that a lot of what Manchester City did, they actually being properly prosecuted for that, were time barred. Like, there are two really important things in this. Like, there's no exoneration here. There's not guilty is the verdict here, rather than being proven completely clean. So it's interesting to see what this does for the next investigation, because it does seem that Manchester City handled this and wielded their power appropriately to get this thing off their table.
Yeah. Who knew that money was important when it comes to defending your good name? Right, OTBAM is live in association with Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette, giving you the confidence to tackle the day ahead. Let's have a look at what's on the OTB Sports app for you today. The feed is dictated by your own choices. You get to pick which sports that you're most interested in. And so our very latest stories, produced by our newsroom and by our digital team, will be there for you, bringing you up to date on some of the best stuff that you might have missed on shows, or some of the news lines that are coming from the people that we speak to, or indeed the very latest news from the world of sport. Then you can just click on the radio button to listen to our OTB Sports Radio, which is the full 24-hour sports radio station that we have. And we can also play it on smart speakers, so you just tell Alexa or OK Google, play OTB Sports Radio on TuneIn, and away you go. It can come on your smart speakers, and then obviously it's the best place to watch all of our videos, or indeed listen to our podcast network, which is booming at the moment in terms of the amount of content that we have there. So whatever your sport, whatever you're interested in, if you want some history, if you want some gold, if you want some up-to-date analysis of the latest trends in football or in GAA or in rugby, it's all right there for you. Just hit subscribe, and whenever we are updating that, we'll ping you a little message if you turn your notifications on, and I recommend you do. It's, what is it, 9:01 this morning. Plenty more coming your way this hour on OTBAM.